In an intensive care bed somewhere in England, the words of a 19-year-old girl.
The doctors here want me to be filled up with opioids so I will lose consciousness and die. I do not want this and want to try the treatment being offered abroad. It might be a small chance, but it is my only chance.
The 19-year-old suffers from a rare degenerative condition, mitochondrial depletion syndrome, also known as MDS. She had been in hospital for over a year when the Daily Mail picked up her story.
She was told she had only days to live in September 2022, and she would die in intensive care. When she caught COVID last year, she had respiratory failure, which resulted in her needing a tracheotomy. Her doctors then pushed her towards palliative care, but she successfully put up a fight and recovered.
The Daily Mail discovered that against her parents' wishes and those of their daughter, her doctors wanted to withdraw her treatment. They took the family to court and were successful in securing a gagging order. It prevented the Mail from revealing her name, her family's identities, the names of her doctors, and even the hospital where she was being treated.
In our hour of need, we were taken to court and had severe reporting restrictions placed upon us. We were essentially given a choice: give up and let us prepare your daughter for death, or have your lives dismantled and torn apart if you wish to resist us.
The young woman's identity was reduced to the initials ST by the courts. She was able to dictate her thoughts to me. Her words are spoken by an actor.
My doctors are saying that because they cannot treat my MDS, I should not be having any more life-preserving treatment. And because I have refused to give up hope, my doctors have said that I cannot possibly have the mental capacity to make decisions about my health.
ST's doctors successfully convinced the court that her refusal to accept her imminent death was a sign of delusion. That was despite 2 court-appointed psychiatrists arguing that she showed no signs of mental impairment. Her doctors argued that ST was actively dying. Her kidneys had failed, she was fed by a tube, and she was attached to a ventilator helping her to breathe. Yet despite all these serious symptoms, her condition had not affected her brain. ST was even hoping to resume studying for her A-levels.
Because I've refused to give up hope, my doctors say I cannot have the mental capacity to make decisions about my health. It seems that if you disagree with the NHS, you must, for that reason alone, be considered delusional.
The judgment of the court, saying that ST was delusional and lacking mental capacity, was a decision that unnerved many observers.
It's an unusual judgment in that the judge has departed from the evidence and findings of the psychiatrists on an issue that's very much in their field. Most of these cases are involving somebody who is clearly mentally incapacitated, has got severe brain damage or in a coma or similar sort of condition, but she was clearly not.
Psychiatrists said that ST was capable of making decisions for herself. This is the heart of the matter. The court then decided that even though the psychiatrists thought that ST was of sufficiently sound mind to make a decision for herself, the court and the doctors knew best. So it wasn't saying that she was incapable of making a decision in principle, it was saying she'd made a decision that they didn't like. And that's a matter of choice, not of are you able to make a decision or not. And that's a really bad principle for the courts to have followed.
From this case, we've learnt that if you disagree with the NHS, you must, for that reason alone, be considered delusional. This has been deeply disturbing and traumatic to witness firsthand, happening to someone you love.
ST and her parents began looking for treatment overseas. They found Dr. Ken Myers, who has successfully treated others suffering from NDS thanks to a pioneering new drug.
I will emphasize these are patients with a different genetic cause. There was a young woman who was 17 when she came, and when I met her, she couldn't walk across the room, like she couldn't take more than like a few steps before falling down. She was so fatigued, and after about 6 months, she was walking around. But to actually see them getting better and in a really meaningful way, like where we see real impressive changes in quality of life, is very, very exciting about what we think the potential of this therapy is.
ST made a heartfelt plea to join the clinical trials in Canada, but the court order meant her identity remained secret. As a result, she was unable to go public with her story. This made fundraising to pay for her treatment and transport impossible.
ST said she wanted to die trying to live. This was her only chance, and that chance was denied to her.
Four days after the Daily Mail published ST's story, she tragically passed away.
On Tuesday evening, we lost our beautiful and courageous daughter. She was everything, and we will cherish and never forget the 19 years we had with her. The past year, however, has been one of struggle, even torture, for our daughter and her family at the hands of the hospital and the Court of Protection.
Sadly, ST is not the first young person to be affected by MDS and have their fate decided by the courts. Throughout 2017, the Daily Mail reported on Charlie Gard, the 11-month-old baby boy suffering from the same condition. It's a case that has close parallels with ST and her treatment. From scouring the medical and scientific websites, Charlie's mother Connie had found that there was a pioneering drug treatment in New York. She raised more than £1 million but was blocked by doctors from taking him. They said that further treatment was futile and would only prolong Charlie's suffering.
So then we were dragged to court and I was completely out of my depth. I've never even dropped rubbish on the floor before. I've never been anywhere near a courtroom before in my life. And you see this one judge and you know that they're going to be making a decision on whether your child lives or dies. It's just one person, you know, it's not a jury in the family court, and it's just heartbreaking.
Denied permission by the court to take Charlie abroad, he tragically died in July 2017. His mother was a prime supporter of ST and the similar battle she faced against the doctors treating her.
You know, ST was a 19-year-old girl and she's also being deprived of her rights, and you know, this raises fundamental issues. You know, doctors are able to decide what's right for the child against the parents' wishes, and now in ST's case, the doctors are able to decide what's in her wishes, and she's an adult, you know, and she has her own voice.
And ST's case may have implications for us all, not just in terms of the relationship between doctors and their patients, but how the courts look on patients who disagree with the medical opinion they've been given.
I think it's a worry for anybody who goes into hospital who is seriously ill, because it's a shift in the balance between the patient and the doctor. If this choice, instead of being yours, is the medical profession's backed up by the court, then that is a risk for everybody whoever goes into hospital.
Most people will be a little bit concerned about the idea that just disagreeing too strongly with your doctor maybe evidence of mental incapacity. So I think that's the problem, really.
3 days after ST's death, there's another case where the courts are being asked by doctors to intervene and end treatment. This time for a critically sick child, 6-month-old Indi Gregory.
She's in hospital at the minute in intensive care. She has disabilities and mitocondrial disease. She's very beautiful and very loving. And I've been brought here by Queen's Medical Centre with 2 days' notice to end her life. I've got no lawyer, I'm on my own, and I need to fight for her. The hearing's about to stop any further treatment for Indi and palliative care to end her life.
It's a heartbreaking sight. One man on his own, pitted against lawyers and the medical establishment, trying to prolong treatment for his baby daughter.
You have the NHS state-funded against you. You have all the lawyers that they bring forward against you, again state-funded. You have the court, which is an organ of the state that turns out to be against you. And you are the one individual citizen with no funding, no support from the state.
To those who have suffered the agonising death of a child from a long-term condition, there are further consequences of fighting the medical and legal establishment.
We chose to give everything up for our daughter, day after day in the intensive care ward. In such an environment, it meant we were afraid to leave her bedside and were therefore forced to give up our livelihoods, to the point where we now do not know how we will pay for her funeral.
We were not given any legal aid and had to pay for lawyers ourselves until recently Christian Legal Centre stepped in to provide pro bono legal representation.
ST and her family found us, and that's very often the way that it is in these cases where critical decisions are being made with critically ill patients. But we are prepared to act in these situations.
Since she lost her son, Connie Yates has been campaigning for fundamental reforms of both the medical and legal systems.
So with Charlie's Law, we want people to have the freedom to choose whether they would have a treatment, as long as the doctor is willing to offer it. What's also astounding is that in cases like these, when the hospital are taking you to court to try and end your child's life, you're not entitled to legal aid. And that's also something we're trying to change, because if you were an unfit parent and they were trying to take your child away from you, you would be entitled to legal aid.
10 days after she died, ST's parents went to the High Court in London to ask for the reporting restrictions to be lifted. They hope that the indignity of only being able to refer to their beloved daughter by the initials ST might be finally removed.
Why should her name be hidden? Why should her parents, who have been by her bedside for 1 year, and her brother, why should they not speak and tell their story? Where patients want their identity to be revealed, then what is the purpose of stopping that?
Emerging from court with the restrictions finally lifted, and a plea that no one else should have to suffer their torment.
We can finally say our beautiful daughter and sister's name in public without fear. She is Sudiksha. She is Sudiksha Thuramalesh, not ST.
Finally able to be identified and tell their daughter's story openly, the parents spoke exclusively to the Daily Mail. What was your reaction to what happened in court today?
We were happy that we can finally say her name out in public.
And you said right and up until the end she was determined to get that order lifted.
She said that she wanted to die trying to live, so she really held on to her life so that she could have those reporting restrictions lifted.
How did Sudiksha take news of this condition?
She was devastated when she first heard about the condition from the doctors, but she is a fighter and she always wanted to overcome. It was in the end of 2021 when she was faced with renal failure. That's when we realized that she was slowly deteriorating, and the doctors said that she wouldn't make it into her adulthood.
And how did the family and Sudiksha take that news?
Sudiksha was shocked to hear that news, but she continued to fight, and she started undergoing regular dialysis sessions at the hospital. While she was undergoing dialysis, she picked up a COVID infection, and that's when she was given the ventilatory support.
So was there some tension between the family and the doctors in the difference in the view of what she wanted?
Yes, the doctors were pushing her into palliative care, whereas the parents, they were trying to fight with the doctors for a life-sustaining treatment, and that active treatment was not given to her. We could not start a fundraising page because of the reporting restrictions. We couldn't tell who Sudiksha was to the world, and that really prevented us from raising funds for treatment abroad. We still feel angry about the fact that we weren't able to raise those funds, and we've been gagged by the orders given by the court as well, which we think was unfair.
And how important was it for Sudiksha to tell her story?
She was being very much particular about telling her story. She understands all the court proceedings, and she was very much particular about the lifting the transparency order.
Previously she was following the case of Charlie Gard, and she saw that it was getting a worldwide attention, and she was upset about the fact that the baby didn't receive the nucleoside treatment, and she wanted to be able to tell her story and the struggles in the ITU so that she can go on to get that treatment abroad. Even till her last breath she was fully conscious and she had full capacity, and we feel that the decision wasn't right, and we want to try and change that.
How will you remember your daughter?
See, when it comes to Sudiksha, she is a very brave, she is a fighter, and she didn't give up until the last minute.
How much will you miss her?
We will miss her very much, and life feels very incomplete without her.
How much will you miss her? No longer anonymous, ST's real name is Sudiksha Thuramalesh, and it's only right that she should have the last word.
I'm a fighter and will continue to fight. I trust in God and will not give up hope. I am in a race against time to escape from this system and the certain death it wishes to impose on me. Whatever my destiny is, this system urgently needs to change, and I pray no one else will have to go through what my family and I have been made to suffer this last year.